Andy.
First of all, I have been at Big Ten games at Maryland and Rutgers with unbelievable atmospheres, ACC Big Ten Challenge games with great atmospheres at Illinois and Indiana, and then just watching games last night, phenomenal, let alone what we saw in New York. So here early in the season, the Big Ten is off to a great start.
And we love that for the Big Ten, which brings us to our big story. Iowa, without leading scorer Chris Murray, knocks off in-state rival Iowa State in a game that really wasn't even close. After a loss to Kentucky in London, Michigan bounces back with a road win at Minnesota in a buzzer-beater finish to Ohio State Rutgers. Buckeyes' Tanner Holden knocks down the game-winning three as time expires to secure OSU's first Big Ten win of the season. Let's start with this Iowa game, though, Andy. And Chris Murray leads the team in scoring, nearly 19 a game, lower leg injury. He's out. Yet Iowa led the whole entire time. It didn't even get close in this game. What impressed you most about the Hawkeyes?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I would argue that this is one of the more stunning results here early in the season. Not because Iowa is not going to be an NCAA tournament team, a team that could be in the top 25 on a consistent basis. But I saw that Iowa team just 2 nights prior in New York. They got completely outclassed by Duke. That was not a game in the second half. And I saw Iowa State in Portland. And the Iowa State team that played UConn for the title a couple Sundays ago, that upset North Carolina, was an Iowa State team that looked like a team that was going to be near the top of the Big 12. So the manner in which Iowa won this game by limiting Iowa State for 3 for 22 on threes, with Iowa making 12 threes themselves without Chris Murray, the fact that this was Fran McCaffrey's 500th win, and both his sons, Connor McCaffrey and Patrick McCaffrey, contribute mightily, 14 and 13 respectively. Philip Rabacha filled the void with Chris Murray, where he had 22. All these pieces came together, and the fact that defensively Iowa got it done, that to me was maybe one of the more stunning results in the manner in which they won it. Iowa's going to be a really good team. But just when it came, after what happened 2 nights ago in New York, how late that game, I know because I was there.
He's been complaining about it ever since he walked in the building.
I didn't get home
He's
till
still tired.
4 in the morning. So, Iowa, if I didn't get home till 4 in the morning and I live in the region, Iowa didn't get back because they flew right after that till 4 something, back in Iowa City. So this was a significant win for the Hawkeyes in so many ways.
You talk about turning around and having to play less than 48 hours later at home against 20th ranked Iowa State. It's a rivalry game. There's a lot of blood between these two teams. And it's interesting hearing you talk about Iowa defensively. It's not something we're used to hearing them talk about. What did they do defensively to have such an impact?
Well, just the way they guarded the three. Their guard play was sensational in this game. And I have to just keep saying this, without the length of Chris Murray. I mean, it's not just his scoring, but defensively, like his twin brother Keegan, he's got long arms, and he can really disrupt, the opponent. Patrick McCaffrey's become certainly a much better defender over the last couple of years. Had that great block shot against Virginia last year on the road. So there's no question this Iowa team has continued to improve defensively. But I just think the bounce back from the Hawkeyes is something they're going to remember going forward. And their next game is against Wisconsin on Sunday. So they host the Badgers. They got a great shot to now build off momentum off of this going into the Big Ten.
Iowa had 20 points off of 15 Iowa State turnovers, so getting it done on that defensive side of the ball, like you said, but also shooting the ball without Chris Murray, who's fantastic from 3. You had a couple of different Iowa players score in double figures. This team shot 52% from beyond the arc, Andy.
Yeah, 12 threes, again, having both McCaffreys contribute here, I think was great for the family because it was Fran's 500th win. I'm sure on social media people have seen him hugging everyone and the emotion of that. He's had a great career as a head coach, regardless of his stops, even prior to that as an assistant at Notre Dame. And, he continues to get a high-level elite player. Now it's Chris Murray, runs things through him. He's had Big Ten and National Player of the Year candidates over the last couple of years. Offensively, we know how good a coach is. It's been the Achilles heel of how well this team defends, how tough they are. And we've seen the last couple of years that toughness, that grit come out, certainly in the fact that, as we know, last March, they won the Big Ten tournament for the first time under Fran McCaffrey.
McCaffrey is also interesting from the standpoint of Iowa's formula is somewhat different compared to a national scale, where so many of these top teams and conferences are getting one and dones. But McCaffrey, Keegan Murray played 2 years, then went to the league. But These players at Iowa are staying longer. What does that say about McCaffrey's ability to develop players in his system?
Well, they know that they're going to get opportunity. I think that's the big thing, that Iowa's done a great job of developing talent, of passing the baton. You know, you can go back, whether it's Peter Jock, Aaron Cook, you know, when it was Luka Garza's turn, then Keegan Murray, which in this era, Keegan Murray's playing behind Garza in terms of opportunities. He certainly was on the floor, but was not the focal point. You also, had Joe Wieskamp on that team as well. Keegan Murray, Chris Murray, they easily could have transferred, looked for a better opportunity. Yes, they're local guys from the state of Iowa, but they waited their turn because Fran McCaffrey has a track record of giving that baton to the next player and really funneling things through the player that can, and empowering them to take the right shots within the system. And it has worked. I mean, the data speaks for itself.
You like data. We know that about you, Andy Katz.
But I'm not a nerd on that.
No, we would never accuse you of being a nerd. My goodness. Iowa hosts Wisconsin on Sunday on the Big Ten Network. Moving now on to Ohio State Rutgers. This game was ridiculous. 12 lead changes, 12 times that the game was tied. Ohio State ends up winning it on a buzzer beater 3 from Tanner Holden, but this game did not lack drama, especially in that last play of the game. Yeah,
look, there's so many ways to peel back this. First off, we have to credit, and you'll be talking to him, Tanner Holden, for making a great shot. So many things had to go right. This was the perfect storm for Ohio State to win this game. As you see here, Caleb McConnell misses the second free throw, rides him because he doesn't want to foul because they're only up 2. Thornton potentially did step out of bounds. Peichel's right there. Steve Peichel looks like he did. The big controversy here is whether or not the establishment of position occurred for Tanner Holden. I spoke to a national head of officiating who told me, late last night after watching the play, that the shot technically should not have counted, but it is not a reviewable play. So when the officials ran off the court, they did the right thing because this is not a play that can be reviewed. Whether or not it should be reviewed, that's another matter. We're waiting to see if the Big Ten will issue a statement at some point today explaining some of that. They don't have to. They may. It was a very good crew that was on this, and it was sort of a bang-bang play because, as you can see, as we just showed you, everything happened so fast. And one of the officials, I can't remember which one was right there, kind of is blocked as to where Holden is and as he's coming into the play. So, look, amazing shot by Tanner Holden. Rutgers can certainly complain that it shouldn't have counted. There was a little bit of an issue whether or not the clock started right after the missed free throw from Caleb McConnell. All these things can be discussed after the fact, but they cannot be reviewed on site. Ohio State gets the win. I do think cumulatively, Rutgers feels a little down today because they've had such a hard time getting quality Big Ten road games. And this was a great opportunity for them. I will say, I'm going to give glass half full here for the Rutgers
Positives.
faithful.
Okay.
To go 1-1 with Indiana home, Ohio State road for your first two Big Ten games, they can take that. This is, I think, a team in a better position at this point this year than last year. Although, by the way, today, December 9th, is the anniversary of knocking off Purdue, the #1 team in the country. So after that game, certainly we felt good about that. But remember, a year ago, they'd already lost to Lafayette, which stuck with them the rest of the season and put a lot of pressure on them during the season. They're going to be fine. This is a team that's going to be an NCAA tournament team. They're finally healthy. But I understand them feeling sort of just down about what could have been had they picked up this win. It's unfortunate, by the way, their next road game in the Big Ten at Purdue.
Yikes, that's going to be a tough one. But this Rutgers team leads the Big Ten in scoring defense. They're not letting teams score more than 56 points a game. You spoke to how this team this year feels different than a year ago. What feels different? Well,
first of all, they're not losing games that they shouldn't. That was the issue a year ago because the Temple loss, which Steve Peichel told me, I did their game the other day against Indiana, they played one bad half. And by the way, Temple has already had some good wins, and I don't think that is going to hurt them at all. This weekend, they've got Seton Hall. So they got to turn the page really quickly. Rivalry game against Seton Hall team that may not make the NCAA tournament, but it's going to have it's probably going to be a quad one game because they're going to play good teams. They already have played good teams. And so that's an important game for them, let alone the rivalry in the state of New Jersey. But also, their young guys have really stepped up, especially Derek Simpson. Their freshman had a great game against Indiana. You had Caleb McConnell, who's just really starting to get really fully healthy. Paul McKay had just come back for that Indiana game. So having Simpson play well, Spencer play well, their young guys or their transfers certainly have fit in a positive way for Rutgers. And they also have confidence because they made it last year. They made it the year before, in 21. They would have made it in 20 during the pandemic year. So now there's a consistency within the culture of the program that, look, we're an NCAA tournament program. We expect to be there.
Ohio State also coming off an NCAA tournament berth last season. Zed Key was fantastic last night. He finished with 22 and 14. Real quick before we move on, what is special about this Ohio State team?
Well, I do think, again, they've got a high ceiling because they've got young guys. Certainly, Sensabaugh is going to get better. We've seen him go off at times. Zed Key started to really fill into the leadership role. We see Justice Suing is healthy, which is critical. Ohio State now has a bit of a gap. They're going to play North Carolina and New York a week from tomorrow. And so this was critical for them because if they had lost this game, it's a long way to sit, thinking about that because they didn't play as well in Maui. It's a hard first game against San Diego State. So they needed a game like this to get going. Once again, they're going to be an NCAA tournament team, but they needed some confidence going forward.
Well, Tanner Holden certainly has confidence after knocking down that shot. And we talked to Tanner Holden coming up here very shortly. Moving on now to Michigan, Minnesota. The Wolverines had a tough 10-day span. First and foremost, they lost to third-ranked UVA by 2 at home. Then they turned around, went to London, lost to 19th-ranked Kentucky by 4. Come across all the time zones again. They're racking up the airline miles, by the way. They take on Minnesota at Minnesota. They win by 15. What is impressing you right now about this Michigan team?
Well, the resiliency, because you got to throw in that they lose Jalen Llewellyn on that trip in London during that game against Kentucky. Later learned that he had an ACL, so he's out for the season. So now you've got to sort of reshuffle your guard play. But I think more than anything, the fact that they were able to have their legs, because this game was really never in doubt, in Minneapolis. It's a Thursday night after they play in London on Sunday. So, as you said, crisscrossing all the time zones on the road. Now, they were very fortunate that they're catching a Minnesota team that is really struggling right now. Probably the only team in the Big Ten right now that really is struggling. I know Nebraska lost, to Indiana, but Nebraska just won 3 in a row. They're the team that clearly is struggling the most. So if there was a road game that they were going to have right after this London trip, it was literally the perfect one for them among the other 13. So they were fortunate scheduling-wise, believe it or not. But I think this is huge for them to get this road win after what had been a very difficult stretch. They got to play Carolina, which I know has been struggling. That game's in Charlotte coming up this month. So they still have another high-profile non-conference game that they've got to play. Michigan
had 4 players score in double figures against Minnesota. Not to mention, this team shot more than 50% from the field and from the 3 as a team. They're showing that balanced ability down the stretch because it can't all just be Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, I think the question is not going to be them scoring. To me, it's always been about their defense the last couple of years. And that has really reared its ugly head at times in games. It didn't against Minnesota. As I said, Minnesota is struggling right now offensively. If they can shore up their their defense, especially now without Llewellyn, so the depth is a little bit hurt on the perimeter, that's going to be their big focus, I think, here the rest of this month, where they will have more practice time, which I think will be key, because now they're going to have time to figure out their rotation a little bit more now that they're down 1 guard.
Coaches love more practice time. Players do not love more
Especially
practice
over the
time.
holidays.
Over the holidays, at least you don't have school right now, but you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, then they go double sessions. They don't like that.
I mean, then you're lifting weights in the weight. I mean, it's a whole thing. Jet Howard, 15 points a game, by the way. Where does he rank in your run for Big Ten Freshman of the Year?
I mean, he's right up there. He's going to be one of the top freshman candidates, if not the, by season's end. But, there's a lot of them. I mean, certainly at Purdue, my number 1 team in the country. Braden Smith is off to a great start for the Boilermakers. Not maybe putting up the same numbers as Jet Howard, but he has been, I think, more valuable to Purdue versus Jet Howard to Michigan. But we'll see. Jet Howard's got a great shot certainly to win it.
Michigan takes on Lipscomb on December 17th before taking on the Carolina Tar Heels in Charlotte on the 21st. Now for our big stat presented by Gatorade. Buzzer beaters from Big Ten players over the last 5 years. Not many. In fact, the Big Ten averaging one a year. Nearly a year to date, by the way. Ohio State continues the trend with a wild finish to knock off Rutgers and secure its first Big Ten win of the season. And joining us now for our big interview, the least popular man in Piscataway, but the most popular man in Columbus, Ohio State guard Tanner Holden, who knocked down the game-winning shot against Rutgers. Tanner, let's go through this play. Time's expiring. You get the ball from teammate Bruce Thornton, and you just go Steph Curry game. Take us through this play from your vantage point.
Yeah, whenever Caleb McConnell got to the free throw line, we were all kind of communicating like what we were going to do if he makes and misses. And I remember saying, like, if he misses, like, we don't have any timeouts, let the ball bounce, and then we can try and get ahead of steam. Bryce let the ball bounce. Bruce got the ball up quick, got up the right sideline, got kind of in trouble, and he just happened to find me. And I just remember shooting it and, like, barely seeing it go in. Not really, and I just see the crowd go crazy, and I think everything went black after that.
You also had the latest reaction to it. Everybody else was going nuts, and you just kind of stood there almost shocked. But what's impressive about this shot, it was your first made bucket of the game. How difficult is it to maintain a scorer's mentality when you haven't seen it go in yet?
Just stay engaged, stay locked in. I think that was the biggest thing for me. I made a lot of buckets before. I think just the confidence of my teammates. They were playing really, really well. We had a lot of guys put in big numbers. So I think that was definitely a big thing that just kept me engaged. Just getting that last shot, I think just knowing the clock, I had to get it up. Thankfully, it went in. So I think that was huge.
Your teammates have confidence in you. I know your head coach, Chris Holtmann, also has confidence in you. What did he have to say to you after the game?
He was just proud of how engaged I was. I don't think I played that final 4 minutes. I came in for a spot a few times, so I think just staying engaged, staying locked in, staying ready for the moment was a huge key to that. And I think, just stepping up and shooting the shot whenever I had to.
You transferred to Ohio State from Wright State. You had a different role when you were at Wright State, but you come into this system and you've been successful. But what has the biggest adjustment been for you as a player?
It's a different level. There's better competition. There's, the atmosphere is crazy. So I think that's definitely a big adjustment. Just the system in general, every system you go to is different. So I think, just that learning curve. We have a lot of new guys. So I think, just bringing my leadership, bringing my experience of the game is huge. And I just think overall, just staying consistent, trying to be as good a teammate as I can, just making plays whenever I can.
It's interesting because across college basketball, we're seeing this. You have a lot of transfers coming into teams. In fact, transfers on a lot of rosters dominate the amount of people. How difficult is it early on, especially, to find that chemistry on the floor?
Yeah, it's difficult because, you're going into a completely different locker room, new guys from new backgrounds, new coaching staff. But I think, Ohio State did a great job of bringing me in with open arms, the fan base and the players and the coaches as well. And I think that was definitely a big key. We built continuity. We were able to go to the Bahamas, spend time together for 4 or 5 days, have fun, play games on and off the court. I think we just built a lot of chemistry there, and we're just carrying out through now.
What specifically about Coach Holtmann's system translates well to your game in particular?
He gives us a lot of freedom. I think that's the big thing, and he instills a lot of confidence in all of our players. So I think that's definitely a big thing for any player. We're here and we're able to play our games. We're able to play free, and I think that's definitely a huge thing for us. And he's definitely an energy giver. So he's always hyping us up, cheering us on, and he's there for us.
He's definitely also fun to watch on the sidelines. He's always got some energy. You have to bring the juice if you're coaching in the Big Ten. You're also playing with a fantastic freshman in Bryce Sensabaugh, who is averaging 14 a game. You're a veteran in college basketball. How has it been playing with such a young player like Sensabaugh, who's shown a lot of maturity, though, early on?
Yeah, I think, not just Bryce, but Bruce and Roddy and Felix, they're all showing a lot of maturity. They're not playing like freshmen. They're more experienced than I was going into college. I think now, just the confidence, and they're really starting to flourish, really starting to understand the game and adjust to the new level. And, they're going to have big games, and Bryce has been playing really well. Shooting the ball really, really well. And he's just been consistent. He's putting in the work. We're all putting in the work. So I think it's definitely paying off.
Your team's already battle tested. You went 2-1 in the Maui Invitational. You lost by 9 to Duke on the road. And then you come away with a huge win over Rutgers, who, by the way, is first in the Big Ten in scoring defense. What's the ceiling for this team?
You know, I don't really think we have a ceiling. I think, you know, we're still working. You know, there's a lot of things we need to work on. You know, today we're going to work on a lot of things in practice, watch film. So I think, you know, we don't really have a ceiling. You know, we're just going to keep working on us, being great teammates to each other overall. You know, keep instilling the things that the coaches have put into us, you know, through their system and through their knowledge. And I think that's been paying off for us, and we just got to keep riding that wave.
Well, you can ride this wave rather for a little bit of time because you don't play for another week and a half or so. What do you plan to do over the course of the next 10 days?
Relax, you know, kind of decompress. You know, that was definitely a crazy win. That was a big, huge win for us. You know, to open up Big Ten play. And you know, I think we're going to work on us for a couple of days, and then we're going to turn the page and work on North Carolina. You know, get ready for the travel day and get ready to play in New York.
That's a game we're all very much looking forward to. Last one for you. I know with social media nowadays being how it is, when you got to your phone after this game, how many text messages did you have?
Hundreds. My phone, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, everything was going crazy. I haven't even got to look at all of them. So you know, it was crazy. It's definitely a blessing, you know, to be recognized and for plays like that. But you know, I couldn't do it without the passive Bruce. You know, the coaches putting us in the right positions at that time. So I think, you know, it's definitely good that we won.
Well, you have a little bit of time off to get to all those text messages, Snapchats, tweets, whatever it is that you have people hitting you up. Congratulations and thank you so much, Tanner Holden. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Andy Katz, Megan McEwen, and Andy Katz, I was here with you last week when you looked right at the camera and you said, copy this down. Zach Edey, clip it. That was the word you used. My bad. Clip it. Zach Edey will be the player of the year. But come on, he's got to have a little bit of competition around the league. Trace Jackson-Davis of Indiana just had a triple-double. I mean, come on. What else you got for us?
Well, look, TJD is in the race. So is Terrence Shannon Jr. Hunter Dickinson maybe could get in the race. But Zach Edey is my pick for Big Ten Player of the Year 1 month into the season. He's also my pick for National Player of the Year 1 month into the season. The double-doubles he's putting up are ridiculous. The 31 and 22 that he had last week against Minnesota was just, I mean, it was just silly numbers. And then he's, you know, 23 and 12, it seems. He's always going to get, it seems, 20 plus, pretty close to around that 11 to 13 number for rebounds. You know, I saw Rever was saying the other night that in the last 2 games, I think he's 40 rebounds combined, and the 2 teams that they played had 41. Hofstra got them by 1 as a combined. So his numbers are ridiculous. I think it's going to be very difficult, as long as Purdue keeps winning, for someone to catch Zach Edey. I think he is the player of the year in the league and nationally, which is great because he's someone who's really worked on his craft.
Okay, let's go Mount Rushmore style here. So George Washington is going to be Zach Edey for you. Who are your other 3 heads?
Well, I do think, as I mentioned, TJD, Terrence Shannon Jr. certainly would be up there. So you're representing there. And then I want to see what happens here. Ultimately, I think Chris Murray will be there from Iowa, but keep an eye on Dante Scott as a sort of an all Big Ten first teamer if we're going to have 5. You know,
there's not 5 on Mount Rushmore, but go ahead.
But I mean, first teams usually have 5 players.
Fair.
I would say that's probably the next guy. You know, maybe Tyler Wall, maybe it'll be Justice Ewing, but I would say probably it'll be Dante Scott if Maryland can consistently be in that top 4 or 5 in the Big Ten.
That's going to be interesting to see. What's also going to be interesting to see is the NCAA tournament. It's never too early to do our predictions, and you have a little bracketology for us. 10 teams in already?
Yes, I'm going to go on record again, okay? I really believe this.
Clip it.
You can clip this. I feel very confident to say that 10 teams from the Big Ten certainly will be in contention for bids, and I will not be shocked at all if all 10 get in. Prior to the season, the big question mark was Maryland. They've answered it. If they can sustain what they're doing now, they're going to be comfortably in. You know, Michigan, certainly this win against Minnesota is not going to really change anything. They've got to get some more quality wins. We know that. They potentially could be a bubble team. Wisconsin, I think, will sustain itself of being right up there. I have no worries about Rutgers, Ohio State. These other teams are sort of middling. Iowa, that win over Iowa State, monster win for Iowa for its resume. I mean, right now, as we say here, 1 month into the season, there are 7 Big Ten teams in the top 26 in the net. Teams that aren't in that top 26, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Michigan. And I think those 3 ultimately will get in as well. So, yeah, I'm just going to say it. 1 month in, save this. 10. They've had 9, 10.
Clip it. Make sure you clip it right there. My question to you all, though, is this. 10 teams get in. Which roster, in your opinion, is built best to make a deep run in the tournament?
Well, I'd say it's Purdue and Indiana. Illinois, maybe, but they don't have the experience. I really love these Purdue and Indiana teams. I love the fact that we're going to get them twice. I had Purdue as a 1 seed, Indiana as a 3. I think Indiana could move its way up to being a co-1 with Purdue. I had Illinois as a 4. They certainly could move up, but I think Purdue and Indiana, they are the class of the league, which is great for the Big Ten when the state of Indiana is big time in Big Ten basketball.